Well, it's safe to say I never thought that this would happen within World of Tanks console, and today's update news video looks into what exactly I'm talking about, and it is of course the release of another free earn operation for, yes, the Dreadnought KV-2, the Tier 7 KV-2 premium version that has a 152mm caliber main armament that also does about 750 alpha damage, or 700 even, with its standard rounds. And of course, if you load the premium, you get 250mm of penetration on a tier 7, able to go through pretty much the front of any tank that you'll meet, with this one of course going up to tier 9 and having 700 reliable damage to deal to your opponents, as well as having the ability to fire HE rounds with 86mm of penetration. And trust me, that's more than enough to go through a lot of the very lightly armoured medium tanks in the game, things like the Barask and some of the tanks like that you'll meet. Obviously, you probably aren't going to be able to go through the British mediums or the Russian mediums, but maybe some of the French medium tanks, etc., etc. Things like the Batchat 25T AP, the tier 9 and below. You'll reliably be able to pen with 86mm of penetration on your HE, which will do 910 alpha damage. But to be honest with you, as far as playing this tank, you pretty much just want to load heat in this thing. You will earn your money back because of the silver earn rate, and since the shells are actually not that expensive per the amount of alpha damage that you will be doing, you earn your silver back if you penetrate that shot with the premium rounds. And trust me, it's just not worth bouncing a standard round in this thing. And when you get the extra 75mm, it means that pretty much any tank standing in front of you in the Dreadnought KV-2 is going to be taking that 700 alpha damage. This is probably one of the more broken tanks within the game. I'm not saying it's the most broken, but I think the whole fact of having 700 alpha with high penetration and just the ability to just derp your opponents, most of the tanks you can come up against, well, let's just say if you came up against yourself, you could two-shot it, and that is pretty much the case for any tank that you come up against in the Dreadnought KV-2. Since the highest tier is tier 9, you're looking at about 2,000 hit points maximum, which, yeah, I suppose three-shotting any tank 2 tiers higher than you can't really be said for very many tanks within the game, and certainly the Dreadnought KV-2 is one of the ones that I really do enjoy playing. As far as the negatives of the tank, well, we can't even say that its speed is particularly that awful, 37 kilometers an hour, and yes, it does actually get up to that top speed. The only problem with it really is the armor model. You are essentially a KV-1 hull with a KV-2 turret, so you're essentially a tier 5 hull with a tier 6 turret, and it really doesn't work out in terms of having the armor, but that's where the 700 alpha damage comes in, and realistically, it doesn't matter what matchup you come in. If you're coming up against tier 9s, it's pretty much the same as coming up against the tier 7s or even 5s that you can come up against. And yes, you can come up against tier 5s in this tank with 700 reliable hit points of damage. It's not a derp gun. It is a fairly accurate tank, as long as you're using all of the accuracy perks that you can do. This accuracy figure right here of 0.56, which, don't get me wrong, that's pretty awful or atrocious. But when you put on the accuracy perks that you can do, steady aim, if you put on all of the things that are going to reduce the or increase the accuracy and reduce the accuracy value here, so the lower it is the better, this can get down really, really low, and so actually the tank isn't that inaccurate. And so the consistency of this thing is just perfect, and when you only have to deal 3 shots in a game to make a ton of silver with the 130% silver earn rate of this tank, then it's definitely a tank I've really enjoyed playing. And if you want a 3 mark, it is very difficult. You do need quite a lot of average damage per game. It's not particularly a very good spotter tank because you have pretty useless view range, to be honest with you, but I definitely really enjoy it as just derping the heavy tanks on the enemy teams. It's more of a tank destroyer. It's not really a heavy tank, to be honest with you. because you won't bounce any rounds that you're coming up against. Even tier 5s might pretty much go straight through the front of you anyway, so I wouldn't really worry too much about potentially having armor in this thing. You have to play it like you don't have any. But as far as actually earning the tank itself, the one-shot wonder challenge details is essentially all you have to do is deal an assist in 1,000 damage, and you have to do that 90 times in total over the course of the 1 week, I believe. So yeah, we've got 1 week to be able to earn the Dreadnought, so get on World of Tanks if you haven't already and start grinding this on the 16th of November, obviously next Tuesday. So that is when this tank earn operation will get released, so make sure you join us on Tuesday and check out any other update news that we've got. We've obviously got some extra stuff to be talking about as well, but this is really a tank that I do have to showcase and show you exactly what this thing can do. We'll be doing a review video of the Dreadnought, showing off the Dreadnought itself very shortly, so get yourself ready to see that and see whether or not you actually want to grind towards this thing and showcase just how good this tank can really be within the game. Now, what else do we have this week? Well, of course, we have got a few things to be talking about. We're taking a look at the Twitch stream notes that Wargaming have posted on the forums, and we're having a look at what that sort of thing has been announced and stuff. So first things first, we have the extra week of Awaken mode. So that was last week. We also had the skins. We have the November challenge, which is still ongoing, obviously still November, and you can essentially get a free tank out of 3. So you can pick one. It's between the IS-6 Black Edition, the Demolisher T-28 and the Minotaur KV-5. You can see how many have been redeemed so far by players on the game, just over 1,000 I believe. But yeah, if you're part of that, then let me know how you're getting on with the tank that you chose, and if you were grinding towards these as part of this November challenge, then let me know how that's going, and whether or not you think you'll actually be able to finish it, because I don't think I'm going to be close to doing that, but we'll have to see. As far as this week, well, of course, that's probably the more important sort of stuff that we've got going on. Obviously, we've had the improvements to the Jag Tiger or the Jaegeru line. So going up to tier 10, of course, the German tank destroyer at tier 10 has got slight buffs. Really disappointed that all they did was buff the reverse speed of the tank, not really too much going on there, but yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more buffs to the tank. We've also got win rates going up on these, and we're going to be looking at basically the Jag Tiger 88. They've basically buffed the win rate by a couple of % overall, and you can see those all for all of the different tanks within the category. We also got that new premium tank, the Teledyne Continental Motors AGS, which I believe has the highest clip potential of any tank released within World of Tanks console, and I think it's got roughly about 4,800 damage within one clip, which is ridiculous. I think that the tank is absolutely fantastic. It's a great one to consistently earn a lot of silver. I've really loved playing it. Is it completely broken? No, I wouldn't say it's completely broken. Is it armadillo level? No. But it certainly is a fantastic tank that can perform really well within whatever game you're going to be playing on Cold War, whether that be, Kalbang or whatever it is. It's a sneaky tank destroyer. Well, it's like a tank destroyer light tank, basically, where you want to keep undetected, spot for your team, but also make sure that you are undetected all of that time and try and position yourself in a position where you can kind of get side shots and get round opponents rather than fighting them head on. Now with that, obviously we got the Crimson Light limited edition tanks that, as of the recording of this video, that you can actually purchase until November 15th. They are very limited edition, by the way. So if you are wanting any of these, I would recommend you pick them up now, because they don't come on sale very often. And that's just if you want the tanks. Don't feel like you're pressured into buying them, because they are very expensive, but they don't come on sale very often. So if you are wanting to pick them up, now is a good time. But remember, Wargaming, as we've talked about with the free events, often put out a lot of the tanks that you'll probably buy within World of Tanks for free. So yeah, you might buy it 1 week and then the next week it could come out in an operation for free, which is a little bit disappointing. Would like to see them maybe just make tanks that are for the challenges themselves, so completely separate ones, so people don't feel like they're being they pay a load of money and then it comes out for free in the near future. But there we go. Next week, of course, probably the biggest thing for you guys wanting to find out what the news is, we have the new World War II premium, the Emil 51, and that's being released next week. So it's a brand new premium. It's a Swedish tank, being the Emil 51. We're going to have a look, and hopefully they've got some pictures of that, but apparently they don't. But yeah, we'll have to have a look at that in a later date when the information gets released, and we'll have a look at whether or not that tank's going to be good. Hopefully I'll do a video of the new premium Emil 51 and see what it actually is like, and a brand new dark skin coming later this month. So for that tank, I believe it will get a new dark skin. Now next week, obviously the Earn Challenge for the Dreadnought KV-2 and the Black Tank sales are back next week, up to 40% off with selected skins, up to 30% off. So if you purchase the Black Tanks, they're going to be 40% off with skins, but if you just want the tanks themselves, they're going to be 30% off, I believe, from what I can see there. It's going to be very inexpensive bundles. I really don't think the Black Tanks are all that good, to be honest. Everyone always raves about them. All they do is, I think that they give you slightly more silver than your typical tanks, so they're basically like better silver earners, but often the tanks that they actually are pretty lackluster, so you can't compete as well with some of the other premiums, things like the Scorpion G. They're just not as good. So although you might, earn more silver statistically, because they're not actually that good tanks, you're not performing, and therefore you're earning less silver, so really it doesn't make much of a difference. I just don't think that the Black Tanks are all that good. I think they may provide some slight buffs to the crew XP, maybe. I can't remember entirely, but obviously I'm sure many of you in the comment section will help me out with that. I am pretty sure that they do just increase the amount of silver that you earn with those tanks. But you can see at the moment the Crimson tanks at the minute, and yeah, they just give you a nice bit of buff basically to your silver earn, with 70% or 75% even of the silver that you would earn with a normal tank. Now, as far as the other things, of course, we've got the Turkey Shoot Silver Op next week, which is basically a way to earn an absolute ton of silver within World of Tanks. I really do like that. We've also got the limited edition Black Tanks available next week, which will be the T-34-3, the IS-6, the Lerva, the T-34, the AMX CDC, the STA-2, and the FV-201 Black Edition. All of them are, of course, available to be able to purchase. To be honest with you, the best ones in there are probably the STA-2, the T-34, and then and the Lerva Black is actually not awful. IS-6 is just, oh god, even with the buffs, it just is not particularly very good. The T-34-3, yeah, it's okay, but it's pretty mediocre. The CDC, we did a video back long talking about how terrible that tank is in current World of Tanks. It really does need some significant buffs to make it somewhat competitive within today's meta within World of Tanks. And of course the FV-201 Black Edition being, yeah, just an average / mediocre tank. Other topics. So this is basically, before we forget even, the +1 -1 matchmaking weekend is next weekend. So remember, it'll be +1 -1. It won't be the +2. So if you're playing tier 7, you will only be able to come up against tier 8s. If you're playing tier 8, tier 9 is the max you'll see. That's what you need to be thinking of. If you're grinding through the tech trees, next weekend is when you want to be grinding the game heavily to get through those tech trees with ease, because it's just easier when you're playing against only a tier tank 1 tier higher than what you're currently playing. So let's see what that actually does, and hopefully it'll be good for the game. Now, next topics. So we have quite a few interesting things to talk about. Of course, we've got the class-based matchmaking has been tested on Super Test server with bots successfully. So this is the one where we're talking about with the having specific amount of tanks within each team. We've talked about the video yesterday, which we looked at the matchmaking, the problem with it, and whether or not you guys have any changes that you'd like to see. But that will be coming for a weekend test in December. And that is, of course, December 3rd. So more details will be coming soon. we obviously have the Xbox Super Test, so a load of you have been accepted, 127 in fact, and yeah, thank you all for kind of joining in. Hopefully we can get some good changes or avoid some bad changes coming into World of Tanks with that Super Test. We've also got the Marks of Excellence. Lots of progress was done on data analysis, and there are no planned changes at this time, which is a little bit annoying. Basically what they've said is TDs and heavies have Marks of Excellence easy, mediums is in their favour but less so, and lights and artilleries are looking just right. So Wargaming are basically saying that they don't want to change the Marks of Excellence at all now. They've basically set it in stone, and I don't think that they'll be changing back to what it previously was, which is a little bit disappointing, kind of like the Marks of Excellence, where it kind of looked at the map that you were actually on within the tank that you were playing, because, you know, your tank, you shouldn't be negatively affected because you got a bad map for your tank, like playing Himmelsdorf in the light tank. We've obviously talked about that in depth in loads of videos, so we won't go into it, but yeah, I think that was something I did enjoy about having the specific map Marks of Excellence. Anyway, new maps are coming. This is in the early December update, so I'm assuming around the point of December 3rd, considering, you know, we've got other dates around there, so it'll be, you know, that sort of region, Tuesdays within the early December, which of course you can work out for yourselves, but that will be probably when we'll see the new maps coming into the game, or I should say not new maps, because they are maps we had previously in the game, which is a little bit disappointing. I would like to see some actual brand new maps, never before seen within World of Tanks, but unfortunately I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. They'll just look at basically implementing old ones. We've got Tietval Ridge, Rizani, Erlenberg and Lakeville, so 4 pretty good maps. I really did enjoy Tietval Ridge. Rizani was actually quite fun. Erlenberg, of course, Kampenberg, and we have Lakeville, which is also another fan favourite. So all of those will be coming back early December. So look out for that. We'll do videos as soon as the update news is released, so make sure you're subscribed to check out those videos when they come out and the news gets released. We've also got mercenary contracts coming in and are in good shape and set to return in the next big update before the end of this year. So mercenary contracts have been confirmed by Wargaming. They should be in by the end of this year. So that's always interesting, and I'm looking forward to potentially getting my hands on things like the machine. I think that will be set as one of the first mercenary contracts that will be returning into the game. So the machine is coming back, for those of you who know about how kind of annoying it was when they first released the contracts and the Matchmaker was filled with tier 10 machines. Yeah, you'll be able to see that again within December this year, hopefully. Artillery, of course, is being looked at, and more information on artillery will be available by the beginning of next year. So it's looking like, you know, January, February, March time, we'll be looking at potentially Artillery 2.0, where Wargaming are potentially going to be changing the whole mechanics relating to artillery. Hopefully we get a bit more of a say in that, and that they don't just bring in what they did on PC and make it completely useless, but also trying to change it from what it is currently, where you can splash people for more damage than if you fully penned and stuff like that. It's just I think it's not in a good place at the moment, but yeah, just making it somewhat more usable for the players that play artillery, but also not making it completely disgusting for the players on the receiving end when, you know, you get missed for 1,000 damage. But as far as other things, of course, we've got the frame rate optimization. So basically, graphic engineers and map designers are looking at improving performance. So hopefully we'll see that. I know the frame rate has been absolutely terrible recently on some of the maps, you know, getting less than 30 frames per second on Xbox One and of course PS4. Obviously, if you've got the upgraded Xbox, and which is Xbox Series X, and the PS5, you should be able to get 60 frames per second, which is something I could only dream of playing on the Xbox One, but hopefully we'll be seeing some increases to the frame rate and just the game looking better. Because I think even though when it first got released on Xbox One and PS4, the game looked a lot better than certain other games, it's kind of been stagnant for a while, and we haven't seen many graphical improvements, at least from what I've seen, other than the HUD, which is whether or not it's an improvement is completely down to you. I don't really know myself. As far as the other things, wheeled vehicles, so the French wheeled light tanks. Although Wargaming haven't actually explicitly said that they are the French wheeled vehicles, maybe we'll be getting some other wheeled vehicles as well as part of that, but I would assume that it is just the French ones, that they've just kind of shortened it, but potentially maybe some other wheeled vehicles. But they're being play tested currently with the lower speed, which means that more maneuverability and higher speed equals less maneuverability. So either they go with higher speed and less maneuverable, or they go with lower speed and more maneuverable so they can turn quicker and stuff. So I think that'll be interesting to see what goes on with that and what their verdict is, whether they'll go with a high speed and pretty much can't really turn very quick, or a low speed and turn super quick. I don't know what's more broken, to be honest with you. Yeah, hopefully not a combination of the high speed and high mobility, that's for sure. As far as moving forward, we also have commander customization coming next year, so that's confirmed with the nationality voices. So before we used to have Spanish, Mexican, we had all sorts of different commanders with the different kind of voices. Obviously we had things like Russian, American, British, all of them were previously in the game. Wargaming removed that with update 6.0, which is a disappointment, and we're not going to be getting that back until next year sometime. The next Tanks Reforged line, as we've talked about in the previous video, probably summarising which tank it would be, it is the Object 263 line, the non-turreted Russian tank destroyer that's been kind of left behind in the dirt a little bit. It will essentially be getting some buffs. We haven't seen any information as to what those buffs are, but I would assume that we'll probably see some maybe armour buffs potentially. Maybe we'll see some gun handling buffs, maybe a bit more penetration maybe on its rounds, maybe we'll see more damage on its rounds, maybe we'll see more gun depression, I don't know. Potentially all of those things, we don't know yet, but we'll cover that as soon as the update news and that update information gets released next week. Of course, we have the Tier 10 Silver Bonus event from November 29th to December 5th. This is a fantastic time to be grinding tier 10 because you can earn, a couple 100,000 silver per game if you're using no silver boosts, and if you are, you can earn potentially up to 300,000 on one singular game, which is really, really good. And I definitely play tier 10 a lot more when this event is up, and it makes it more profitable to play tier 10 than it previously did. Of course, we've also got no plan changes to platoon sizing, so maximum of 3 at the minute. Wargaming did think about changing it back to the 5-man platoon, but I don't think that will ever happen because, to be honest with you, it just wasn't balanced. Having 5 Panzer 5-4s in one singular game, yeah, it's just not particularly very fun. And then finally, Turkey Treats returning this year on November 23rd. So stay tuned for all of that. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. Of course, let me know your thoughts on the update news and the free Dreadnought tank destroyer that is coming to World of Tanks console for everyone now. Be aware, if you're playing tier 8 or tier 9 or even tier 5 and 6, you're going to be getting stumped by tons and tons of Dreadnoughts playing around in the Matchmaker, so be aware, that's probably going to happen very, very soon. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend as of recording this, and maybe in the week if you're watching it, then yes, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and day, and I hope that you'll join me in some of the other videos on screen right now, and I hope that you'll see me in the next video. Goodbye.